over 800 lines total, hundreds of geometric shapes, and at least 100 animals are present in this whole area.
Have you seen any new scans of the Nazca Lines where they found new petroglyphs?
As Spanish colonizers walked across the Peru desert in the 1500s, they stumbled across some peculiar ruts in the ground.
They pointed an artificial intelligence at the Peruvian desert. In 6 months, it found what took humans 100 years. For nearly a century, scientists believed they had mapped the great mystery of the Nazca Desert, the enormous figures carved into the Peruvian sand 2,000 years ago, drawings so vast that many of them can only be seen in full from the sky. It took archaeologists almost 100 years of painstaking, backbreaking work to find around 430 of these figures, one at a time, walking the desert on foot and squinting at aerial photographs. Then researchers did something no one had ever tried. They handed the entire desert over to an artificial intelligence, and in just 6 months, the machine found 303 more, nearly doubling the entire known catalog of figurative Nazca geoglyphs. The AI saw faint shapes scratched into the earth that human eyes had walked straight past for generations. Figures so worn, so subtle, so nearly invisible that no person had ever recognized them as anything but rocks and sand. And when scientists finally looked at what the machine had revealed and what it told them about why these drawings exist at all, they were left genuinely speechless, because the pattern hidden in the sand had been pointing at the sky the entire time. Share this with everyone you know, because the Nazca Lines have haunted us since the 1920s. Giant figures of animals, plants, and beings etched across miles of barren desert, many so large they make no sense from the ground. You could stand right on top of one and never know it was there, because the shape only resolves into a hummingbird or a spider when you rise hundreds of feet into the air. For 100 years, the question has stayed the same. Who were these drawings made for, if no human standing in the desert could ever see them whole? Now, an artificial intelligence has cracked the answer, and it reveals a civilization speaking to something far above their heads. Before we break down exactly what the AI found, why these figures stayed invisible to us for so long, and what they were truly meant to communicate, make sure you subscribe to Vault of Discovery. We're giving you the real science that rewrites the textbooks. First, you have to understand what the Nazca Lines actually are, because the method behind them is almost as astonishing as the figures themselves. They were created by a pre-Inca people called the Nazca between roughly 200 BCE and 700 CE using a deceptively simple technique. They scraped away the dark, reddish, iron-oxidized stones covering the desert surface to expose the lighter-colored soil hidden underneath. With nothing but that, removing stones to reveal the brightness beneath, they drew figures of staggering scale, some stretching over 1,000 feet long, across a plateau so dry, so windless, and so stable that the drawings have survived, etched into the open ground for 2,000 years. There is almost no rain to wash them away and little wind to bury them. The desert itself became a near-permanent canvas. And the central maddening mystery has always been this. Many of these giant figures are so enormous that they can only be seen in their entirety from a great height, from a mountain ridge or from the air. A people with no aircraft, no balloons, no way of ever leaving the ground, drew vast and detailed images that not one member of their society could have fully seen with their own eyes. Think about what that actually means. For 100 years, finding these figures was brutally slow, frustrating work. Archaeologists had to comb the desert on foot and pore over aerial photographs by hand, and the smaller, fainter figures were almost impossible to tell apart from the natural rocky landscape. Just shapes that blended into the chaos of stones and shadows. That is why, after a full century of dedicated effort by some of the best minds in archaeology, the confirmed count of figurative geoglyphs sat at only around 430. The Nazca Pampa was simply too vast, the markings too eroded, and the human eye too limited to catch what was faintly hiding in the dust. The desert was holding tightly onto its secrets, and it seemed there was no way to force it open. But here's the first shocking twist. A team from Japan's Yamagata University, working together with AI researchers from IBM's Thomas J. Watson Research Center, trained an artificial intelligence to do something no human team ever could, to rapidly scan enormous quantities of high-resolution aerial imagery, and detect the faint, ghostly signatures of geoglyphs buried in the natural terrain. The machine would flag the most promising candidate locations across the whole region, and then archaeologists would travel out to those exact spots to verify them on the ground, one by one. The results stunned everyone involved. In a single 6-month field survey, the team confirmed 303 brand new figurative geoglyphs, nearly doubling in half a year what it had taken human researchers almost an entire century to uncover. The study's authors described it as roughly a 16-fold increase in the rate of discovery. The AI had been seeing things written into the sand that we, quite literally, had never been able to perceive. And then it got stranger, because of what those newly revealed figures actually showed. Among the 303 new geoglyphs were haunting, oddly specific images. There were human and humanoid figures. There were domesticated animals. And disturbingly, there were decapitated heads scratched into the earth. One striking figure, roughly 72 feet long, depicts what appears to be a killer whale clutching a knife. These were not random scribbles or accidents of erosion. They were a vocabulary, a deliberate visual language pressed into the desert floor by human hands 2,000 years ago. And the artificial intelligence had just handed scientists hundreds of new words from that lost language all at once, more than enough to finally begin reading it as a whole. Then came the second devastating revelation, the part that genuinely left researchers speechless. Because with the catalog suddenly almost doubled, scientists could finally analyze the patterns across the entire desert at once, and the AI's haul exposed something nobody had been able to prove before. The Nazca geoglyphs split cleanly into two completely distinct types, each made for a completely different purpose. The smaller relief-type figures, which overwhelmingly depict humans and human-related things like domesticated animals and severed heads, were found clustered tightly along the ancient winding trails that crisscrossed the desert, sitting on average just 43 meters from a footpath. These were intimate, personal images, made to be encountered up close by a single traveler or a small group walking by on the path. But the giant line-type figures told the opposite story. They mainly depict wild animals, and they sit along a vast network of dead straight lines and trapezoids, built not for one passing person, but for the entire community to gather around and use together in shared ritual. But the third twist changes everything about who these giant figures were truly created for. Because the small ones were made for human eyes, viewed up close along the trails, the giant ones were not. They are so colossal they can only be read from far above, and they were laid out along ceremonial pathways used for ritual rather than ordinary viewing. So who exactly was meant to see them in full? The leading scholarly interpretation is genuinely haunting. These enormous figures were oriented toward the heavens, intended to be witnessed by the gods and deities the Nazca believed watched over them from the sky, offerings carved into the living earth for an audience that looked down from above, bound up with desperate prayers for water in one of the driest landscapes on the entire planet. The grandest drawings weren't hidden from humans by some accident of scale. In a very real sense, they were never meant for human eyes at all. They were meant to be seen from the sky. Now, this is exactly the point where the wilder theories take over. The famous idea that the lines were landing strips or signals for ancient astronauts visiting from the stars. And it's worth being honest with you. There is no evidence for that, and serious scholars don't accept it. But here's the thing. You don't need aliens to feel the chill run down your spine. The verified, peer-reviewed truth is strange enough on its own. A civilization that carved messages into the earth on a scale that only the sky could ever read, and an artificial intelligence 2,000 years later becoming the very first eye capable of finally seeing all of them. One thing is absolutely certain. This single AI survey has done more to crack open the mystery of the Nazca Lines than almost any effort in the past 100 years. It nearly doubled the known figures in 6 months. It revealed hundreds of images human eyes had missed for generations. And it finally decoded the divide hidden in the sand, the intimate figures made for travelers walking the ground, and the colossal ones drawn for something looking down from above. A machine saw what we never could, and in doing so, it let us hear a 2,000-year-old civilization speaking upward, to the sky. And the researchers believe the desert is far from finished giving up its secrets. Many more faint, half-erased figures are almost certainly still out there, waiting beneath the same sand we've walked across for 100 years, invisible until the next pass of an artificial eye. As AI grows sharper and turns its gaze on ancient landscapes across the entire planet, the lost messages of the Nazca may prove to be only the first of countless human secrets hiding in plain sight. When the machine finds the next one, the story of who our ancestors were and who they believed was watching them may have to be rewritten all over again. Stay tuned.